Hello, this is Christopher Dare again, and I'm here with my dear friend Chaz Blackburn. And I just want to remind you what we're doing. This is Finding Your South. Now, just so you know, I came up with this name, and it means a lot to me because the Lord really asked me to walk my own path a long time ago, and you can go back to the first introduction and know more about that. But with that said, I feel like He continues to ask me to walk my own path, and I'm in that moment right now. I mean, literally, where I'm like, okay, what do I do? And some of the normal paths aren't there, and so so one of it, walking my own path, is starting this podcast. It really is something I've never done before. I know I have one listener. Thanks for listening.
I'm honored to listen.
No, it's pretty cool, and it's fun to get to share my heart and my mind. I love, especially with some of what I've been through over the years, getting to just show how Christianity, leadership, who I am, gets to mix on the table and give people encouragement. And so, I've shared a little bit about me for a moment. You want to share a little bit about who you are and your life?
Yeah, so my name's Chaz Blackburn, and I'm super proud to be your friend. I really am honored. And I find it ironic because some of the principles we're talking about, you as a mentor to me, even over the last 4 years, some of the things I dealt with in the political realm, dealing with different politicians and different causes, there were times that you gave me advice, especially with conflict specifically. So I just find it funny how we're coming back full circle. But I'm a chaplain in the community, and then also a very, very honored dad of my daughter Lily, who's turning 13 in June. And I follow Christ. He's my Lord and my Savior, and so that's pretty much who I am.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, and a cool thing, and I love finding people who have similar paths that we can, similar foundations that when we're talking about certain things, it rings. And so many conversations I've had with you, it's pretty nice because I'm like, yes, or challenge me. There's times, that has challenged me to say, I need to hold on to this. I need to be careful. So we've been talking about conflict. And so obviously this happens every day of our life. Would you agree with that?
100%. Every day, every hour even.
Yeah. And so to remind anybody that is watching this, definitions matter, and I know Chaz well, so I know we agree. A conflict just is the idea that two things bumped into each other, and I believe strongly, and you tell me, I'd love to know your opinion on this. I believe that it is neither good nor bad, but neutral. What do you think about when I say that? Is you feel that? You disagree? What do you think?
Well, I agree with it, but the flesh of me, because I'm constantly battling and having conflict with myself all the time, and trying to follow who God's called me to be. But I think you're right. It's all about perspective. Conflict is just, it's like, it's a middle ground. It is neutral ground. It's how our grid looks at it and the perspective of it.
Mm-hmm. No, and it's funny. You remember, what is it, the SNL skit with the devil on one side, the little angel on the other, and the war that's going on. Now, it's funny. They're making fun of something that's very scriptural in a sense. It's this war that is going on inside of us, in our mind, our heart, our soul, and there is a very real war for our soul, I believe, going on. But with that, I can say, how do we live this out amongst others, and with that, I keep. This word's been on my mind a lot lately, is how do I remain an ambassador of Christ, which really I'm here to represent, when I so sometimes want to stand up for Christopher.
Right? No, truly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think in this day and age, too, we know the climate's very difficult, where people won't even have conversations and agree to disagree. Mm-hmm. And they want us, and sometimes we want them to compromise, and we think that if they don't believe the same way, that we can't find that common ground. Mm-hmm. And that's very dangerous, I think, in how we proceed to be able to work together and serve in a community together and just live our lives, even as neighbors. How do we find that common ground?
So, and it's when you said agree to disagree, I don't know if my mind just keeps going to these SNL skits, but I think that's even an SNL skit. Agree to disagree, whatever. And I want to say this because there's people who say agree to disagree with an attitude, and in the very end, that wasn't what they were doing.
Right.
Finding a path forward means something positive we can roll forward. For me, mean, I'll just say in Vegas, I remember I led a huge, it actually was a very successful multi-religious group from, Christian, Mormon, different sects of that. You had Buddhists there, we had Muslim, and we did work in the community. Now, our common thread was that we all we commonly said we love people, we value people, and that remained our focus. And I got to lead this, so when anybody got off focus, I could say, "Hey, listen, we're not here whether they like the Bible or not. We're here to say we all agree that we're going to love people." So we got to remain and come back to that common thing. But when somebody says agree to disagree, sometimes it's almost like a way to shut down a conversation.
Sure.
And I say that, not that you were doing that, but our culture does that. Our culture does. And so how do we take conflict and, find a pathway forward? I don't know, maybe share a time that it worked or didn't work for you?
Actually, well, recently, probably 6 months ago, and I won't go into too specific of a scenario, but I was actually I'm still part of this organization of chaplains, and we joined a multi-faith organization, and we had multiple faith leaders and chaplains leave because they said we were compromising our beliefs by participating and being around other people of other faiths. Mm-hmm. And so there was no winning that argument with them. And I had to change my mindset that, again, I was getting stuck in there's a winner and a loser, and that's the wrong mindset. But unfortunately, they did walk away from that. And I tried very hard to communicate, my viewpoint on it. And so at the end of the day, I had to just, realize, what can I take away from this and improve on? I can only control what I can control in my attitude, my emotions. And B, I have to be okay that they walked away.
And it's so true. A lot of times we want to win. We also, even in, and there's a way we almost want to say, you have to agree with me because I need it, kind of thing. But it's funny, I have this chess set here for a reason. And so in a workplace or in a setting like the group you had, and I say that if you're listening on podcasts, I have a chess set sitting here and they're all lined up, and imagine that in your mind. And Chaz and I, we are green, and what we're going against is white. Okay, that's what this chess set is. And imagine we're sitting here, and we have a conflict, but we're conflicting poverty, or we're conflicting, unhealthy things that we want to make better. But what happens so many times, even in nonprofit groups, churches, businesses, is somehow the conversation turns, and instead of focusing on the very vision and the purpose we turn this, and all of a sudden, we're no longer combating a good cause. We actually turned it, and I'm green and he's white, and now I'm combating him, right? Now I have to beat him.
Yeah.
Because we forgot about what this is. And it even happens in marriages a lot. I do a lot of marriage counseling, and sometimes I walk into a setting and I can tell right away they've started throwing bombs at each other, man. This isn't a war about honoring the Lord. This is not a war about helping anybody else. This is about me and you, and we're gonna fight this out. And I tell you, I hope in my life I can show people more and more ways to make sure we stay on the same side of the chess table, right? And going after a similar goal. And as Christians, we see this, but there's other people we work with that we can have common goals. What do you think about that?
I think you're right, and I think it's how we actually proceed with the conflict as well, because when I'm thinking about conflict, I'm constantly asking myself, how can I stand for truth, but with love and kindness, and while respecting their views as well. And that's a tough balance. What do you think about that? How do you balance that?
Well, I think it becomes tough because we do value them, but it means we're gonna at times disagree.
Right.
Now I know this woman named Melissa. I've known her for 34 years.
Well, careful what you're saying. I'm on the podcast with you.
I've never disagreed with anybody more in my whole life. It was even funny today, just today. Now, you might say this is not a disagreement or a conflict. It's a conflict in my mind. So I'm on my way home. Okay, it's freezing outside, right? It's on my way home. I can't wait to get home. I have to get ready for this. I have all these lists of things to do. And I'm not even thinking about what she might want to do because she's working or she's doing whatever, And so we're off, and it was, I'm on my way home, And then I text her and say, hey, I'm on my way home. And so, and she gets back with me and says, hey, will you go with me out for a walk with the dogs? Right? I mean, it takes 15 minutes to do, but it's freezing outside. I have work to do. Now, I know my wife, if I said no, she would still go with 2 dogs in the cold, and I'm the loser, man, right? So, and so I have a choice now. I can say no, and she'll be fine. She won't even give me a hard time. It won't be a fight. She'll be like, but I also need to walk. I mean, she knows it's for me. It's with her, and she needs help with the dogs. So you might say there's not a conflict, but believe me, the whole ride home, I'm like, do I want to do this? Do I not want to do this? And so we apply this to bigger things. So I went for a walk with my wife, by the way. Did not hurt anything. If anything, it made me healthier. We had a great conversation. But little things can turn into big things.
Right.
But we really can tell you, do we handle a little thing any different than the big things? I mean, the principles are the same. So this could be something monumentous, but do I come into this saying, we're on the same team together, my wife and I, and we want to go after it? Chaz, you and I are on the same team when it comes to loving this community and showing people what it means to walk in a certain way. And so even if, matter of fact, if you ever came to me and said, Christopher, why'd you do that? I'd be all, tell me. I want to learn because we're on the same team together. We're going after something together. And if for some reason we're not hitting it right, I need you to challenge me. And I have a weird perspective on it. I'm like, teach me, man. And if we have expectation that that's what we're going to do, then I think it shifts. Now, we're going to continue this conversation. This is just the start. We have a few more things to talk about. So, Chaz Blackburn here, the wisest guy I know.
Oh, please. Thank you. That's an honor coming from you.
We're here on Finding Your South. And I tell you, this place, we're just trying to give some guidance, some direction of how we're walking out this journey. God bless you. We'll see you next time.
Take care.